Folks, today is Monday, November 3rd, 2025. This is a special edition of Roland Martin Unfiltered. We normally are live at 6 p.m. Eastern, but huge election taking place in Virginia, also elections all across the country. So we're going to be talking to a number of folks here at Zion Community Church, including candidates, but also the fiery and the quite shy State Senator Louise Lucas. Lots to talk about. It's time to bring the funk right here in Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. Yeah, it's Uncle Roro, y'all. Yeah, yeah, it's Roland Martin.
We are live, Zion Community Church here in Chesapeake, Virginia. It is the day before the election in this state. Elections are taking place all across the country. You've got gubernatorial race in New Jersey. You've got constitutional amendments in Texas. You've got Supreme Court retention races in Pennsylvania. And folks are paying a lot of attention to what's going on, but specifically in this state, it is the opportunity for Democrats to have a trifecta, the ability to be able to control the House, the Senate, as well as the governor's mansions. Republicans have a majority of trifectas across the country, and we've seen what happens when Democrats are able to do that, the type of legislation that is able to be passed. That speaks also to, of course, the interests of many African Americans. You also have something unique in this particular state. You have, of course, the first black Speaker of the House in Don Scott. Of course, my alpha brother, who plays at Texas A&M, but he older than me. I pledge later. Then, of course, you have State Senator Louise Lucas, who controls the money in the Senate, which is always important. And then, of course, you have of the gubernatorial race, you've got Abigail Spanberger against Winsome Sears. You could have your first black attorney general in Jay Jones. So there's a whole lot happening. But let's kick things off with Senator Lucas. Always good to see you. So your feet healed because you had the boot last time I saw you.
That knee is ready to go.
That knee is ready to go? All right, so you were so busy kicking the butt of Governor Glenn Youngkin for the last few years. Yes, well, as Bishop Bishop Barber told me, that is one of the words in the Bible. Right. So Bishop Barber said that's okay. That's okay. Let's one of the things that jumps out, and this is the thing that I'm always trying to explain to people, especially our folk, understanding power. If you don't have power, you can't use power, and then when you do have power, you better know how to use power.
You better know how to use it. And the thing that troubles me is when people say, I think I might split the ticket. And I say, what the heck are you talking about? Here you have Don Scott, who's the Speaker of the House. Here I am, President Pro Tem, and Chair Senate Finance and Appropriations. Why would you want to have someone who is either in the Attorney General's office or in the Governor's mansion who is going to veto every bill that we send to them? Or if we have an attorney general who's not going to file a lawsuit against Trump, then what do you have?
Right.
So that's the reason why I tell people we cannot afford not to have a trifecta, and especially with the leadership that we have in the House and in the Senate. If we're going to get the things done that you know we can, we need this trifecta in Virginia. And I'm telling you, I am feeling very optimistic about tomorrow. I feel like there's going to be a blue wave, and thank Donald Trump for it.
The thing on that point, Think on that point, if anybody who says that, if they're not paying attention to what's going on, we see it. You take North Carolina, okay? Even though you've had a Democratic government before, Josh Stein got reelected. The Republicans had a supermajority. They lost that by one, but they control the state Supreme Court. And so they're able to make moves and overrule the governor. And then the Supreme Court, when they get sued, is going to back them up. And I remind folks all the time, Democrats could have had a 6-1 majority on their state Supreme Court. Sherry Beasley loses by 401 votes. The next election, they lose a seat. Now it's 5-2 Republican, and you see what happens. And so even if you have a Democratic governor, you still have that Republican-controlled Supreme Court. It's understanding how all the levers of power work.
How it all fits together, and that's the reason.
Just hold that mic up a little bit right there.
That's the reason why people need to understand that it all fits together. And right here in this audience, we also had the person who is also on appropriations for the House of Delegates with Cliff Hayes. You'll hear from him later. And with him being in the position that he's in, people got to understand if we don't have the majority, we lose these chairmanships that controls the day.
Right.
So
and
we've got to have him as the chairman.
And again, when we talk about, again, the importance of chair, you control the agenda, you control what bills get introduced, all of that.
And we control the money.
Right. I mean, but that's what I'm saying. So, I mean, I spent a lot of time. I remember when a month before she died, Dr. Maya Angelou, I was interviewing her, and I made a reference to something, and I said that 3 of our sisters have been involved in teaching, and my brother. I said, I'm the only one not teaching. She says, no. She says, you do teach. She said, I watch you. You do teach. And begin to look at it a lot differently. And what I try to tell people is we have to understand how all these pieces work when we talk about federal, state, county, city, school board.
Absolutely.
If you do not control the levers of power, then somebody else is in control. So people are complaining about, well, this is not happening and this is not happening and I'm not seeing my community change. Well, that's likely because you didn't have folks who were sitting in the position who cared about your community.
Exactly. And I'm telling you, I'm thinking now that people are seeing jobs being lost, SNAP programs cut, money taken from school programs, money taken from health care. Now that people are beginning to feel the pain, they realize what we were trying to tell them when we were out here pounding the pavement, telling them Project 2025 is going to be implemented if you don't get out and vote.
Right. They literally gave the game plan.
They
said,
told us exactly
we're going to do
what
this.
they were going to do. Told us, and many of us went from church to church, civic league to civic league, telling people you need to get out and vote.
Folks were telling me, well, I don't really think they're going to do it. I was like, what are you talking about?
Right.
That's going to happen.
It's going to happen. We went out and we told them, and now they're saying, oh, my God, if I had only known. Oh, you knew.
And in fact, Axios wrote about it in 2021. New York Times followed up. So we were talking about it on this show for 3 years. Going back to 21, I'm like, y'all, this is coming. They're working on this. Again, people kind of like, okay. I'm like, okay. That's why we use the hashtag we tried to tell you.
Exactly. That's exactly.
So when they complain, I'm like, we tried to tell you.
Exactly. Well, a lot of folks say to me, well, I didn't actually believe he was going to do that. Well,
like, were you not paying attention the last time?
Exactly.
What do you say to people who say Democrats spend too much time focusing on Trump?
I disagree with that because I think folks need to understand where the pain starts. Because the folks in Congress, they have no backbone, they have no spine. I'm not even blaming, well, they're spineless, but everything emanates from Donald Trump. The members of the House and the Senate in the U.S. Congress of the United States of America, they don't breathe, they don't move unless Donald Trump tells them
He
to.
controls the party.
Exactly.
He has complete and total control because top to bottom, they are scared to death of him.
Exactly. If I didn't know better, I think he had a hit on him.
Well, I mean, it's look, we've heard from Democrats who said that they talk to their colleagues privately, and some of them say they're fearful of their life. There are people going to threaten them. They're fearful of losing. And I think back to Jeff Flake.
Their lives ruined.
Yeah, I think back to Jeff Flake of Arizona. I think back to I forgot who was the guy who was the senator in Tennessee, and when they chose not to seek re-election. And I remember folks where every time Flake would give a speech, they would praise him. I said, no, he made a punk move. I said, my whole deal is, no, I'm going to run. And if y'all want to run against me, fine, but I'm going to stand on my principles. But they were scared to lose. They were scared to challenge the power. And to me, that just makes no sense whatsoever.
Well, you know, some of us, when they tell us, oh, you need to sit down and be quiet, you know what I think? Oh, you don't know me like that.
Yeah.
We're going to be quiet, and we're not going back.
Well, we actually can't. Let's talk about, in this state, one of the things that you took lots of joy in stopping was that arena deal with the governor. And he thought he was going to make that move. And I've always been opposed to building new palatial arenas for billionaire team owners. My whole deal is finance it yourself.
But they wanted to do it on the backs of the taxpayers of the Commonwealth of Virginia. And here I was, brand new chair of Senate Finance and Appropriation. First time we've ever had an African-American to chair that position. And they thought I would, look, did they say stupid across my forehead? But just in case, it's not there. And so I was not going to allow taxpayer dollars to fund a $2 billion project for Glenn Youngkins.
And the thing,
and
the thing that, and I think what has happened is, what these sports teams have done, they've actually confused people. They've got them thinking, oh no, that these are benevolent owners and they're doing the public good. And if anybody who studies the numbers, those arenas do not create economic development.
No, they do not.
And so you're handing them billions of dollars. And then what happens is, the moment the stadium is built, the value of their franchises greatly increases because of the new stadium. So wait a minute. So the taxpayers built something.
It takes money out of the taxpayers' pockets to do it.
Right. And then people say, well, we can fund that, but we can't fund this. And that, to me, is what drives me crazy. So my favorite photo was still the one, I think there was a news conference he had, and you were on the steps, and you were just looking over like.
Oh, and I got a better one for him tomorrow after we get this blue wave.
Let's talk about the priorities. What are your priorities for our community if you come back in January and you have the trifecta?
One of the things we need to make sure we do is make sure that people have access to health care. Because if people are not healthy, and that's the thing that I am so proud of with the Democratic members of Congress, and that is that they're holding the line. They are not going to bend over, and they're not going to allow Trump and the folks on the other side to take away the health care. And right here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, we're trying to figure out now, how are we going to feed children Head Start?
Right.
People can't work because they don't have a way for their kids to be taken care of. People ought not have to worry about whether they're going to pay for their child care or their mortgage. I mean, the cuts are being felt now. And one lady who worked in social services even said to me, a lady came in and said, well, I'm glad they're going to be getting rid of Obamacare, but she just walked out of there with affordable care.
Right.
She didn't know the difference.
That's the one that to this day cracks me up. I remember it was a 16 race, and they was talking to this broke white woman in Kentucky, and I say that for a reason, and I'll explain in a minute. And she was like, "That's right, Trump getting rid of Obamacare, but I'm really concerned about the Affordable Care Act." And I'm like, does this fool not know it's the same thing? And actually, and I'll be honest, I actually told President Obama and his people, I said, do not embrace the phrase. Right. And I said, listen, I know y'all think it's, I said, like, oh no, we can flip it. No, I said, that was a poll-tested phrase that was specifically designed to attach his name to it. Correct. And so I don't use Obamacare on my show. My TV One show, when I was on the CNN, I always said Affordable Care Act, because I understood that if you use that, you were actually reinforcing the negative for them, and that's exactly what happened. So
how could you go this long and not know that Obamacare is the Affordable Care Act? Do people not read anything?
No, they don't. No, they don't. But you also got to remember, you take the Frank Luntz of the world, who Frank Luntz, it's a trip to me when he starts talking about, how our politics has gotten so messed up. And I'm like, dude, you were one of the purveyors of evil because you created the poll-tested phrases that Republicans used against Democrats that drove that. But the reason people still think that is because they live completely in a Fox News, in a hard right-wing ecosystem. So you're talking about Fox News. You're talking about if you go to many of these states, especially in rural parts, you turn on AM radio. It's literally conservative radio from the left side of the dial all the way to the right. Then the digital piece. Then what happens with Facebook. So these people are consumed in this right-wing ecosystem, which is why I've long said that. If Democrats are going to counter that, they have to start having what I call real, frank, honest conversations in the whitest, reddest, brokest, sickest parts of the country. Let me explain.
That's right.
Democrats have to be able to say, go to a place that's white as all get out, they vote red, they're sick, and say, these are your county health care numbers. This is the number of people in this county who live on Medicaid, who provide SNAP. You voted 82% for the Republican candidate. That person voted against every single thing y'all have.
Exactly.
And then when you lose it, you come to us to save it.
Exactly.
And I just think they have to go there and say it that way, not say, well, we're here for the work class. No, they literally have to say, white, conservative, broke folk, y'all are voting against your own economic interests.
The majority of the people who will be suffering from the Doge Trump cuts will be people who voted for him. Just look at the numbers.
Right.
The majority of people who want SNAP are not folks who look like you and me.
But see, that's why, and like I said, we posted on my Instagram page, that's why right now what's happening, they're using the Google Zora AI. So you now have all of these fake videos showing black women complaining about losing SNAP benefits. So now these Republicans are responding, and you see the language. These was Mike Davis said these ladies should get out their quote fat ghetto asses.
Right, right.
And all these folks are now saying cut them off and the food they're buying because they have created this whole mindset that no, it's them people, black people. Tommy Tuberville was saying the same thing. I'm like, you in broke Alabama, dude. Your state has one. You're in the top 3 of government benefits.
Exactly.
But I just think that, but Democrats have to have those frank conversations.
That's exactly correct.
And they got to go there.
Well, and you know me, I'm not quiet. So when I start talking about it, I tell it like I see it. And the majority of people who will be hurt will be the folks who voted for Donald Trump. And I'd hate to say it, but there was a time when I did say it. Sometimes people have their butts scrape the concrete.
Oh, listen, I said at the outset, after the inauguration, people came to me.
I said it differently, but
people came to me and they said, what do you think has to happen in order for this to change? I said, and I was, again, I'm very explicit. And let me say why we have to be explicit. Because here's a perfect example. The Dallas Morning News it was an Associated Press story. And I just want y'all to understand how these things happen. They had a headline, and this is what the headline said. I want to actually read it. Because we see this all the time when these stories are done. And we have to recognize when they never ever, they only use these phrases when it's us. So the headline said, and Carl Quintanilla of CNBC posted this. Y'all gonna love this here. On one side of the page, this is the front page, it said, rural hospitals struggle to survive. Texas will compete with states for $25 billion in funds. It may not be enough. On the other side of the same front page, black families to feel brunt of cuts. And then it says, Minority group has highest share of SNAP recipients, data shows. Now, it was an Associated Press story. So now I want you to understand how media works. So AP writes this story to say who has the highest share. So we get that. But when you say who has the highest number,
there's a difference.
And here's what. You will never see a headline that says white families to feel brunt of cuts.
That's correct.
And this is how media now projects the image that the folk who are losing out on SNAP cuts are black people. They will never say Trump meets with a group of black preachers. But when he has Paula White and those white folks there, you will never see a headline says Trump meets with a group of white pastors.
Correct.
And so what we have in our politics, they will use black, they'll use Hispanic, they'll use, and then they'll complain about identity politics.
Well, it's convenient.
But they will never say white, and that's why that rural hospital struggle to survive. Same thing. There's this new story out Politico has about Democrats are losing the working class. The moment I saw it, I said, I need to see the data. What did the black working class folks say in this poll compared to the white working class? And that, to me, I think is something that Democrats have to, you got to be willing to say it because they're already doing it. And I just think that a lot of broke white folks in this country don't know they actually are broke. They know they white, but they know they broke because their whole deal is I'm identifying with, as Howard Dean said, God gave guns, not economics.
Exactly.
And that has to be a part of the conversation.
I love the way you teach.
I just think we have no choice to do that because they are walking around saying, oh, they are taking stuff. And the states that are taking the most federal benefits are red states.
Exactly.
That's what's insane, and taking from blue states, if you will, like Virginia. You earlier talked about soon the Trump administration. I had Jay Jones on the show last week. He's been dealing with this whole texting controversy. There have been so many. I've had people say, "Hey, are Virginia Democrats abandoning him?
Absolutely
They're
not.
running away." Speak to that.
Absolutely not. And for any fool out there who thinks that those of us in the House and the Senate will be able to deal with adjacent majorities, and we have a Democratic governor, he will never sue Trump for a thing. But he will be in a perfect position to sue us for everything. And that's what people need to understand when they start talking about splitting the ticket. Jay Jones is going to sue Donald Trump, and I can't wait till he does.
On health.
And he is going to win this election tomorrow because folks are not as dumb as the press has made them out to be. These voters are going to go to the polls, and they're going to recognize that we need a trifecta in order to save their asses. Did I just say that?
I told you that's one of the words in the Bible. You good. You good. You good. Now, if you go like.
So I'm telling everybody, go vote for Jay Jones. That's what I'm talking about.
There's somebody out there who's watching, who's listening, and that person says, listen, all this stuff sounds great. I don't believe any of this stuff has an impact on my life. I don't believe that it can make a difference in my life. So therefore, I'm not going to waste my time to vote. Which one is camera? That's our camera right there? All right, so look at that camera right there and talk to that person. What do you say to that person who actually says that?
Oh, my God. Bless your heart. What I can say to you is that politics affect you from the cradle to the grave. And if you think for 1 minute that your children will be in a better place in terms of education, if you had a Donald Trump who's trying to get rid of the Department of Education, if you think for 1 minute that your child is going to be able to get good, affordable health care with Donald Trump and his minions in place, then you need to stop smoking whatever you're smoking. And drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm here to tell you that we cannot afford another person who is going to be in state legislature, whether it's in Virginia, is in New Jersey, or anywhere in this nation, who is not going to have backbone enough, who is not going to have spine enough to be able to think for themselves. They only think and say what Donald Trump tells them to say. So if you're following that line of thinking, baby, you need to stop smoking whatever it is you're smoking.
Well, that sums it up. I know you got to run to a campaign event with Abigail Spanberger. I appreciate you sitting with us and having a chat.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
All right. Thanks a bunch. There we go. There we go. All right, then. Safe travel.
Thank you.
She mentioned my kill the music. She mentioned my next guest, Delegate Cliff Hayes. Come on up. Take a seat right there. So let's get more in depth again in talking to folks and explaining them how the money game works. It still should be on.
Test.
There you go. What does it mean? Again, one of the things I've been saying across the country is that we've got to have teaching class. We got to have citizenship education training all over the place. As literally City Hall 101, School Board 101, State Government 101, County Government 101. And so being the chair of a committee that's dealing with the money, what does that mean?
It means everything, because in the way of legislation, if you don't have the money to go along with your legislation, it's not going anywhere. I recall, Roland, when I was a senior at Norfolk State University, standing in the crowd, we had knocked on doors and fought hard to get the first black governor, not only for the Commonwealth, but anywhere in this country, L. Douglas Wilder.
Yeah, first black governor since Reconstruction.
Yes, sir. Elected to office. And I remember standing in the back of the crowd asking him the question, what is it that you consider to be the most important part of your job? He responded to me, Hayes, listen, it's one thing to ask for a piece of the pie. It's a better thing when your hand is on the knife, cutting the pie. And so to have folks in position to make the decisions on where the Commonwealth's resources will be applied makes all the difference in the world. We just talked about our HBCUs who have been woefully funded in the past. Mm-hmm. Now, if you walk on the campus of Norfolk State University, you see a difference. When you walk on the campus of Virginia State University, you see a difference in what this leadership has done.
Well, on that particular point, the Biden-Harris administration sent out letters to a number of states based upon another report that showed that through about a 30-year period, these land grant institutions, some $12 to $13 billion of the HBCUs had been cheated out of the money. The money came from the federal government, went to the states, and the states sent that money to the white land grant schools and not the black, not the HBCUs. And in the case of Virginia State, according to this analysis, for that federal money, Virginia State is owed $277.5 million. Tennessee State is owed more than $500 million. And it lists all the different HBCUs in terms of what they're owed. So that's not the normal appropriation from the state. That's what they should have gotten from the federal government. Do y'all plan to rectify that situation?
No question. Everything that we are focused on during this session is to make up for some of the inequities of the past. The last time we had full control of the House, the Senate, and the governor's mansion, and the lieutenant governor's office, as well as the AG's office, we were able to get some amazing things done here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. We even have, in the way of voting, a lot of things have changed here in the Commonwealth.
Like what?
The Republicans have been in control for over 24 years or so. They kept drawing these salamander-looking districts where they could stay in control for over 24 years. Once we were able to get the districts drawn the way that they were supposed to, the court intervened and made that happen. Once that happened, you begin to see some major changes here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. We were able to get not only voting by mail, we were able to have 45, Roland, 45 days early voting. People don't have any excuse for why they shouldn't be voting. At first, you had to come up with some crazy excuse for why you need to vote early here in the Commonwealth. Now you have 45 days early voting here in the Commonwealth. And Election Day is a holiday. We made Election Day an actual holiday. We took a pen, a permanent pen, and scratched through the name of Lee and Jackson Day here in the Commonwealth of Virginia and replaced it for a holiday of early voting on Election Day. You can even register to vote on the same day of the election.
Same day registration.
All of those kinds of things, including much in the way of criminal justice reform, has happened under the Democrats in control here in the Commonwealth.
So now you have something that, let's say you get the trifecta, when you reconvene, and because of, again, how Virginia law is, how you have to pass something in consecutive sessions, that is, so now you come back in January, what then happens is, if you control the House, control the Senate, control the governor's mansion, that bill gets passed. Now it gets put on the ballot to restore the voting rights of folks automatically who've completed their sentence, as opposed to the governor having to sign each one. And I talk about this all the time, that I have to remind people, because I love these people who are always saying, why y'all got to keep bringing up slavery? Why y'all got to keep bringing up the past? And I keep telling folk that there are laws in place today that are racist laws that were passed. And in this state, literally, that provision, when it came to folks who were incarcerated, you had a state official who said on the floor, this is to keep the niggas from voting. That's literally what the law. So that law, since the early 1900s, that was a racist Jim Crow law that was enacted. And so being able to put that to the voters in a constitutional amendment will rectify a racist Jim Crow law that was designed to keep black people, first of all, to incarcerate them in a lot of made-up, trumped-up charges, but to deny black folks to vote, because like right now, 20% of black people in Tennessee right now cannot vote because of their felony disenfranchisement law. 20%.
Well, we say here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, it doesn't take looking many states over to see where governors are doing things like scratching people off of the rolls on the eligibility-wise. Here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, we witnessed the governor here scratching people off the rolls and disqualifying them when they had no business taking those people off the rolls. Now, here's the most egregious part of that, Roland. Election Day is game day. There is no tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. Once you have taken away the ability for those individuals to vote, you scratch them away, then you have an election. Those people have been disenfranchised forever, because it's going to be some impact behind the result of those elections. Here this year, we have the ability to grow our majority. When I first got elected to the General Assembly and back in 2016, there were only 34 of us. It was pretty grim trying to think about
34 Democrats.
34 Democrats to get elected. Today, we stand at 51 in the House, where we can control, and then in the Senate, we control the Senate as well under the leadership of Senator Lucas, Senator Locke. They do some amazing work over in the Senate. In the House, the only reason we have the first black Speaker of the House in Don Scott is because we have the majority. Make no mistake about it. And I'm not just saying this because he's a black man. He's my friend. That guy is one of the most intelligent, smartest, strategic people you're going to find. Absolutely. Where we sit right now, we probably not only will maintain the majority, we will grow the majority.
So let's again. I want people to really understand, because when Stephen A. Smith criticized Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, I had to walk through on the show to say, one, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Two, you don't know you have no idea what a member of Congress does. And one of the things that he had no clue about, talking about, well, you need to work with Trump. I'm like, no, actually, you don't, having no understanding that that in the U.S. Constitution, everything that deals with money begins in the U.S. House. It does not begin in the White House. I said, so you have no idea what you're talking about. So each member of Congress gets to pick 15 projects in their district that they want funded. And so the reality is, depending upon who's Democrat or Republican, that person is going to establish what their priorities are, who they're listening to. So when you talk about in a state government, again, you have members who want things funded. And in order to get stuff funded, they have to go through the Appropriations Committee. There's no other committee they can actually go through.
That's right.
So they are submitting all sorts of things that they want funded, and it has to go through your committee, and y'all get to decide those things before they go to the House floor. So, one, first of all, electing somebody from your district who's going to prioritize your projects is one that's important. But then, if having someone who is from that person's party controlling the overall pie, that now dictates the likelihood of what may get funded and may not get funded. That's the nuts and bolts. That's how the sausage is made, and folk don't really understand. And there's a whole bunch of back and forth. It's a bunch of butt kissing. I bet they all text you on your birthday, your kids, the family birthday, your anniversary, because they understand how the money flow works.
There are these opportunities where people come, and then good and well that stuff isn't going anywhere. I'll be polite. I'll greet them, but we just ball it up and throw it in the trash.
See, that's why I can't be in politics, 'cause I can't be polite. I'd be like, oh, I know you ain't coming over here. I just be way too ruthless with people. But go ahead. You gonna be polite. I can't be polite like that. I got to cut them. What Bernie Mac said, cut them to the white meat? That's me. Go ahead.
But Roland, I'll just give you one example, and this may seem small to some, but I almost drowned twice when I was a kid. Living here in Hampton Roads, surrounded by water. The city of Chesapeake is the only locality in this area that does not have a swimming facility for the kids. Now, you check the statistics, and you see who it is that drowns the most. It's black kids, it's black families, it's black children, black boys and black girls, because they don't know how to swim. Here in the city of Chesapeake, when I was a member of city council back in 2004, I fought, I pushed, and was rejected about funding a swimming pool in one of the largest African-American sections of the city, South Norfolk, where my father grew up, where my mom grew up, where my in-laws grew up. I mean, just a strong contingency of our community. Those kids, our kids in the city, deserve a public swimming facility. Now, when I was on council, they fought it. They kept coming up with excuses for why not to do it. When I got to the General Assembly and sat on appropriations, one of the first things I did, because the city was bringing a bunch of excuses as why they couldn't fund that facility, I sent them $12 million to say, here's the money, go ahead and do the pool. Then they tried to say, well, we want to do it right, so we're going to have to try to come up with some more money to put to it so it won't happen. Fast forward to today, we break ground in a couple of weeks on that facility, something that had been on the radar for the past 50 years when Mayor Ward, the first black mayor and only black mayor of the city of Chesapeake, was in office fighting for that some 50 years ago. We finally get to a place where it's funded and have forced them to go ahead and build what need to happen. I mean, you can go to communities all over this country and elementary school programs in the school system. They teach the kids how to swim. But here, the folks in the majority sitting on the city council, they're not worried about a public pool.
Right.
Because they have a pool in their backyard. Or they can belong to the swimming racket club. And their kids learn how to swim. But we think it's egregious not to fund fully all of our communities in every way that need to be funded. We got schools in that same community in which my father went to back before Chesapeake even became a city, with the windows broken out, with AC systems needed to be repaired, with mold in the schools. And guess what they do? Nothing. But we're coming back with some more. And when the city comes to the General Assembly,
right,
and
that's a critical point. The city comes to the state saying, here are our priorities, what we need funded, and then you're able to say, okay, but I need this done.
Absolutely.
So if y'all want me to carry the water for this, you're going to have to do this.
Absolutely.
See, that's the thing that I'm constantly trying to get our people to understand. That's how politics works.
You asked earlier.
And when people say that stuff it don't matter.
What difference it makes.
Yeah.
You asked that question earlier of Senator Lucas. If somebody thinks that their vote isn't going to make a difference, then give examples as to why. When you're talking about your schools getting funded, when you're talking about, again, just going back to 2018 and healthcare wise, when the Affordable Care Act passed, one of the provisions said that states, you have the ability to extend Medicaid. And here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, we extended Medicaid to over some 700,000 families that now have access to affordable, quality health care. And the polls leading up to that moment is what was most exciting to me. Mm-hmm. We could see that no matter what corner of the Commonwealth, it was the red areas, it was the places rural, almost to the Tennessee line, that 70% of them were in favor of Medicaid expansion here in Virginia.
Right. So all those red places were in favor of Medicaid expansion, and the folk who were opposing Medicaid expansion were the very folk they were voting for, and the folks who were in support of it were Democrats who they can't stand. And that's what's happening right now. All of these farmers who in Nebraska and Iowa and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and Michigan and Idaho who voted for Trump, now they're coming to Democrats saying, can you help us? Can you help us? And I had Senator Schumer and Leader Jeffries on. I was like, make them wait. And I know I had some people say, man, Roland, that was cold. I said, no. I said, sometimes you got to tell folk, I'm confused. 85% of your county voted for them. Why don't y'all go ask them for help?
There you go.
Because, again, the folk who you come and we had a congresswoman from California on. She sits on the committee, and that was a guy from Mississippi, who, because she's on the committee, was asking her, man, can you really help us get this funded? And she said, don't you have 2 Republican senators from Mississippi? Oh, they against that. There's only one black member. There's only one black member of Congress from Mississippi. Only one Democrat from Mississippi, which is Congressman Benny Thompson. All the rest are Republican. But here's this businessman in Mississippi who wants this. He can't go to his Republican senators, his Republican members of Congress. So here he's going to this black one from California because she's on the right committee, and he's asking for help.
Make it make sense.
But that's how politics works. Last point here. Also, when you control the money, external groups, not just the city, can petition to what they want funded. This is also critical because who is going to even give you an audience?
That's right.
Will you be ignored or will you be listened to? So that's why it's still important who is sitting in that seat, and then who's not just sitting in the state seat, but then what seat they're sitting in on what committee. All of that matters when we talk about the things we want for our community.
But in terms of politics, Roland, what ends up happening is these folks on the other side are pretty clever at putting things out of context. And I've heard or seen and read somewhere that a text out of context becomes a pretext to con people. A text out of context becomes the pretext to con folk. That's what these folk have been good at doing. They'll take a situation, flip it around, and make you think that DEI is something horrible and spooky and scary, and blame everything going wrong, as President Obama
And then say
said.
all these folk are incompetent when Trump has appointed so many incompetent, unqualified folk, and they never use the tag DEI.
So we just got to get to work. We know Tuesday's coming. Tomorrow is here. It's facing us. We got to get to the polls and vote. If you haven't early voted already, you had 45 days to do so. And if you haven't, you must not allow tomorrow to close
That's
at
right.
7 p.m. and you haven't gotten your behind to the polls.
I always say, voters, shut the hell up.
There you go.
That's what I always say. Y'all give it up, please, for Delegate Cliff Hayes. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Let's bring up a second chair right now. We're gonna bring up right now Bishop Ben Fitzgerald, Zion Community Church. We're gonna bring up Valerie Boykins. Is Valerie here? Come on, Valerie. Come on up. Come on up. Just slide it right there. Go ahead and grab that microphone there. All right then. All right then. So here we go. So first of all, I'm going to start with Valerie because here's what. So Valerie, with the Suffolk NAACP, she works with. You probably member of other groups as well, but you're here as yourself, not representing the NAACP. But I have to ask you an NAACP question. I have been dealing with these crazy, deranged right-wing folk who have been, all of these folk, they've been posting stuff. Look at the NAACP. How dare they say they for the advancement of colored people, and they endorse this white woman over this black woman. And I'm sitting there going, fool, the NAACP did not endorse Abigail Spanberger. She spoke at the convention. Was Sears invited to speak at the convention?
I can't speak for the president, but our doors were open during the public meeting for anybody to attend. We're fresh off of our state convention, and she did drop by and offered greetings to the group. And you're absolutely right. The NAACP does not endorse candidates. We stand on issues. We pay attention to what's important to our community, but we do not endorse
Yeah, y'all. The state had to put out a whole press release because these yahoos were putting stuff all on social media, and they still are. And so their whole thing was trying to attack NAACP, trying to attack former President Barack Obama. Oh, he was chastising black men last year to support Vice President Kamala Harris, but he won't support this black woman. I kept saying, fool, they ain't supporting. No, they not supporting the agenda. It's a whole. Just like there's a lot of black folk ain't supporting Byron Donald's agenda, Burgess Owens' agenda, Wesley Hunt's agenda, Tim Scott's agenda, and those same individuals, sure enough, ain't supporting a lot of black stuff.
It's kind of like our national president says, Derek Johnson, we are not partisan, but we're political as hell. And we pay attention to what's important in our community. Our state president, Cozy Bailey, went on TV in the Richmond area, invited the whole state to come to our public meeting. So, yes, she may not have got, I don't know if she got a personal invite, but everybody was invited to our public meeting.
See, could drop by. So absolutely. If she didn't make it a priority, that's on her. That's not the issue there. Pastor, Bishop, let's talk about community concerns. How have you been communicating with your congregation and trying to get them to communicate with their families and friends to understand not just the value of voting, but to understand that, as Senator Lucas said, look, politics impacts everybody in every facet. I keep telling folk, your birth certificate is a government document. Your high school diploma, you go to a public school, is a government document. If you go to a state school, your degree is a government document. You get married, your license is a government document. You get divorced, that's a government document. And your death certificate is a government document. So there's this notion that I can live my life without government is really one of the dumbest things I hear people say all the time.
I'll go further. I tell them they're dumb.
Hold that mic up right there.
I tell them they're dumb if they vote for the wrong side. Now, I'll say that I don't see everything the Democrats do as right, but I don't see everything my wife do as right. But I go home every night.
All right, don't get cut.
And hey, and the
Don't mess that pink shirt up.
I'm
You're going to go home, it's going to be a red shirt.
I'm a single issue voter. And of course, I don't agree with everything with the Democratic Party, but I tell them on one side, you have a party that there may be some issues you're not feeling. On the other side, you got a party that wants you to pick cotton. I don't want to pick cotton, so I don't vote for that side. Y'all can get the blackest people to run on that ticket, but I know that's the side that wants me to pick cotton. So I tell the congregation that if you want to go to heaven and you don't want to pick cotton, vote Democrat.
See, the thing that I remember in, it was 2016, I was in Chicago. I had a speech, and I go downstairs to the Hyatt bar to order me some food. And so look up and talking politics. And so as a white guy sitting at the table, and again, I'm real specific. I don't say a guy because this is a part of the conversation. And he recognizes me from television. And so he starts going in on Hillary Clinton. I said, okay, all right. So do me a favor. He's like, I don't like Trump, but I don't like her. I said, okay. So I grabbed a sheet of paper. I put a H and I put a D and I put a line down the middle. It's okay. I said, I want you to list the 10 issues you care about. Then I want you to put a check next to the H or the D on those issues. So do 10 issues. H had 7 check marks. D for Donald had 3. And he went, I just still can't vote for her. I said, I'm confused. You literally agree your position on 7 of the 10 issues. 70% aligns with her. 3 or 30% aligns with him, but you still can't vote for her.
There's a group in this country that is okay with losing everything as long as me and you get nothing.
And that was just, and so I say this to folk all the time. I love these people talk about, man, you a shield for Democrats. I'm like, no. I said, I'm very clear on issues. I'm very clear in terms of where I stand. If I lay out 10 and it's 9, 1, 8, 2, 7, 3, 6, 4, that ain't hard. If this is sports, you know how you winning. I said, now, if it's 5, 5, that's a whole different conversation. For the issues that I care about, Valerie, I ain't never had 5, 5, especially lately. And so now, there have been, I'm born and raised in Texas, there have been some candidates, I'm like, you know what? They're good on this, this, and this. Not only that, I was explaining to somebody, George Voinovich. George Voinovich ran for, he was the mayor of Cleveland. He got a significant amount of black support. Because when he was mayor, he didn't just drop by black organizations. He literally invited folk in, wanted to know what their agenda was, always got significant black support. He ran for governor of Ohio, significant black support. Ran for United States Senate from Ohio, got significant black support because he was a Republican who actually talked to, listened to, and enacted things that black folks wanted. They said, that's a good man, I'm voting for him. And that's why I try to explain to people, do you have your own personal agenda, and is that person aligning with what I care about? How do you talk to folk and trying to get them to understand how they should be voting and what they should be focused on?
So we've been trying during this past year to try to make sure people get educated on the issues. On Juneteenth, we celebrated that weekend, but we actually sponsored a town hall where we invited locals as well as some, congressional and local officials.
Now, I want you to understand, as a native of Texas, that's actually how we always did it. Mm-hmm. Juneteenth was not about concerts and picnics. Juneteenth was always about finishing the job of freedom.
So we picked up on that vibe this year, and so we had a town hall. You know, we had a congressman, we had state legislators, we had a local council person there, and then we invited people from the community organizations. And this was just before that big ugly bill was passed. And so we wanted people to be educated about what was at stake and what the risks were. And so we had people talk about the impact it could have on our communities. We were already having conversations with our local school board, who had already suspended the DEI policy. And might I say, they did it on the day that the court issued a stay. So if we gotta
so they didn't wait.
We got to stay. Why are you issuing it now? They also changed the transgender policy. And so we saw the handwriting on the wall. We saw things that were happening, and we wanted people in our community to be well educated about that. And so we've not only been pushing the vote, but what are these issues and how is it impacting you? And you need to know what's going on. We just had a forum, a candidates forum for the local delegates. Again, trying to get people to better understand what the issues are.
Okay,
we
so
don't tell them how to vote.
You had a candidates forum for local delegates. Who showed up?
Well, we had 84th and 89th. We had one for each, one representative for each. I think some people had conflicts, but yeah. But for those who came, we had a good conversation. Then we had another candidate to show up at our meeting last week and entertain questions and talk to our members so that they could understand her perspective on the issues as well.
Bishop, the thing here for me, when we talked earlier about, and trust me, there's somebody going to say, well, see, that's hyperbole. They want us to pick cotton. I said, okay, so let's.
It's real.
And I try to walk them through. I said, let's break it. I've been saying, again, since January, that what we are witnessing, this is the most direct assault on Black America since Jim Crow.
Amen.
And I walk people through, and see, I just don't throw the stuff out there. I said, what you see is a massive effort to defund Black America. That's it. The Supreme Court attack on affirmative action in colleges, that dealt with education. What then happened was people like Arkansas Republican Senator Tim Cotton and others took that ruling, which only applied to colleges and universities, and sent letters to law firms across the country saying, you now have to get rid of your minority fellowship programs. That ruling had nothing to do with businesses. Trump's anti-DEI executive order only applies to the federal government. It does not apply to state government, county government, school districts, city councils. But what then happened? Different governments, different businesses. You had Gannett, which used to be the most diverse media newspaper company in the country, said, oh, we're going to stop collecting race data because of Trump's executive order. That had nothing to do with their company.
It was an excuse to be who they always
there you go.
were.
So all these corporations. And so that's the business side. Well, by attacking that, we saw there's not been a single Black nonprofit in America that has not been impacted because companies said we can't fund it. And in fact, I spoke at the Women's Black Expo, the Black Women's Expo in Chicago. There were a number of companies headquartered in Chicago that did not return their sponsors. One of them literally said, we would love to do it, but the problem is we are a telecommunications company, and Trump's FCC, they literally are looking at every single thing they sponsor. And if they see, they are taking AI to search through everything. If they see Black, they said they are going to stop any merger, any acquisition, any program. You take Paramount, CBS, Viacom, BET, MTV, Skydance buying them. Brendan Carr said, I will not approve this merger unless you get rid of all your diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. All of it. They said, done. They're the ones who hired Barry Wise to be the editor-in-chief of CBS, even though she has never, ever run a newsroom. She's never worked in TV. So I love them saying DEI means you don't have, it's not merit. When that woman ain't got no skills, she's never run a newsroom. Yep. Never in her life. I've run 6, 7, and they would never consider me to be the editor-in-chief of CBS News, but she's right-wing. And so now that's the nonprofit piece. Yes, so now we're talking academic, education, business, nonprofit. Trump wants to get rid of the federal DBE program. That's $37 billion spent annually. They want to wipe that out. So their goal is to literally wipe out all of the advances since the 64 Civil Rights Act, 65 Voting Rights Act, 68 Fair Housing Act, and last point, before you speak on that, they also are using the very civil rights laws that were enacted to protect black folks, like the 1866 Civil Rights Act, trying to use it against us to shut programming down. That's how diabolical they are in their pursuit to defund black America.
Amen. I agree 100%. One of the things we have to do, though, is, and I love your boldness, we have to be more bold. Respectability,
hold the mic up a little bit.
Sure. Respectability politics will only take us so far. As ignorant as they get, we got to be willing to get that kind of ignorant back.
Oh, listen, let's be real clear. When Michelle Obama said, you know, when they go low, we go high, I said, oh, hell no. I said, right. If they go low, I'm going lower. If they hit the stomach, I'm going to bust you in the thigh. If they hit me in the knees, I'm going for the shins. Listen. If they hit me in the ankle, I'm going to hit them in the bottom of their feet. Oh, I ain't got no, hey, we going to swing.
Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth.
Yeah. Now, is that biblical?
It's in the Bible.
Okay, cool. Valerie, I made that point when I talked about defund black America, but I need women to understand what's going on. When I see the percentage of white women who voted for Trump, the percentage of non-college women who voted for Trump, who support MAGA, their agenda really is, we need y'all to shut up, lay down, birth these kids, go in the kitchen, and cook me some food, and rinse and repeat the next day. Again, I need people to understand. Speaker Mike Johnson, this right-wing, soft-spoken, right-wing conservative out of Louisiana, Speaker Mike Johnson literally believes that no-fault divorce has led to the downfall of America. That is a Republican viewpoint. That's one. Two, this is why they despise the Civil Rights Act of 64. And we're in Virginia, and this is perfect, because Virginia had a racist Republican named Congressman Judge Smith, the racist Republican. When the 64 Civil Rights Act was proposed, Smith was trying to figure out how to kill it. So he said, well, if we include women in the bill, that's going to kill it. He didn't realize that actually got him more votes. Here's what people don't understand, and this is why I try to walk people through. You take Robert Mercer, who funded Breitbart. Robert Mercer literally said that the downfall of America began with the 64 Civil Rights Act. Charlie Kirk always trashed the 64 Civil Rights Act, calling it a mistake. Now, some of them may say, well, I don't understand. That was public accommodations. No. Go forward to 1972 when Title IX gets passed. The problem is we think Title IX was about sports. Title IX was not about sports. Title IX opened the professional schools to women. That's how women became doctors, lawyers, engineers, architects, because they were being frozen out of master's programs. If you ask the average person, well, where Title IX come from? Title IX is a provision of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. If you're disabled, the 1996 American Disabilities Act comes from the 1964 Civil Rights Act. So we can track, so when we talk about civil rights, women, and it's benefited a lot of white women. No group has benefited from affirmative action in contracts more than white women. When you talk about the disabled, when you talk about LGBTQ, when black people fought for rights, everybody benefited. And that's why they want to destroy the 64 Civil Rights Act. They want to destroy the Voting Rights Act because too many folks have been voting. And they want to destroy. Trump has been gutting the housing and urban development because they want to destroy the 68 Fair Housing Act. That is their agenda.
Roland, we clearly see an attack on black women. We're hearing 300 to 350,000 black women have lost their jobs since Doge went into business. And it's scary because a lot of those women live in the DMV. Many of them in Virginia, raising children without jobs. And so we know that we tend to be the ones that show up at the polls because we are educated, we have lifted ourselves, up, and we're trying to lift our families up, and they're trying to shut us down. We see it. We're not stupid. We see the attacks that are coming at us. And so that's why we're pushing people to get to the polls. Don't get weary. We're tired. A lot of people say we got really tired after that last election. It kind of took us down a bit, but we had to get through that, get up, pick ourselves up, and keep fighting. And so we've got to ensure that Virginia has people in the right positions to look after our interests, because the federal government's not looking after us anymore. We passed that 64 Act so that the federal government says you states can't just do what you want to do to disenfranchise people. Now look what's happening. It's the federal government switching, so we've got to ensure that Virginia has the right people to ensure that our rights stay in place.
See, again, if you look at if you look at a lot of these podcasts, if you look at a lot of these polling, and you're seeing how the right, again, what Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA were doing, they were targeting these young white men, because what they were telling them is, you can't get a job because they got a job. That woman got a job over you. No, she chose to be educated and you didn't. They want to return to a world where it is a world of white men, where they get to just decide whatever they want to do. If you look at a lot of these podcasts, that's literally their entire language. They are so upset because they now have to compete. So what you have is they're trying to target these young white men to say, oh, the world is so different. You're being discriminated against. You're being disenfranchised, because they now have to compete against white women, black men, Asian women, Native American men, Native American women. And so that's what their goal is. And again, if you study the language, look at the marriage rates. Look at this here. These women, they should look. Ladies, you should be, if you go to school, you should be finding your husband and get married. Their entire philosophy, Bishop, is literally built around patriarchy.
Always.
And they are reaching a younger demographic by saying, you are losing out. The world is no longer yours. And that's how they're radicalizing these young white men to say, see, they are taking stuff from you.
I was with Senator Tim Kaine the other night. We had dinner, and I shared with him the 2020 election, Biden, Trump. I'm outside. We're one church in 11 locations. I'm outside of our cathedral in Portsmouth. And a nice guy across the street, white pastor, great guy, comes over. Hey, brother, before you go to service, I just want to see, are you telling your people how to vote? So, I'm trying to be nice. I'm working on that, being more, I said, well, we stay out of that and they'll vote their conscience. He said, no, brother, there are two things that destroy a nation. And those two things are abortion, shedding innocent blood, and gay marriage. Those things destroy nations. And I said, well, those are things we might argue about. I said, but my people don't want to pick cotton. That's why we're voting for Biden. No. And it's the truth. But I want you to know what his answer was. This is how you know what you're dealing with. He said, brother, prejudice is bad, but that doesn't destroy a nation. Those are the people we're dealing with.
Okay, after he said that,
I wanted to beat him in the head to the white meat show. That's what I wanted to do.
Did you just walk away?
No. I told him, I said, for us, I will throw rice at every gay wedding from here to Shenandoah Valley before I pick cotton. That's what I told him. Then I went in church.
Okay, when he said that, was he standing on church property?
He was standing on church property.
Because that's the moment he needed some hands laid on him.
All the way.
Like at that moment, he needed some hands laid on him.
You know what the crazy thing is? He was so sincere. He wasn't trying to be mean. He was sincere. It's okay if you pick cotton as long as gay folks don't get married.
Well, that was a particular clip that went crazy viral. Anthony, see if you can grab it. You know what I'm talking about. So we had an election. Actually, this was after, I think, one of the State of the Union speeches. And I had a sister on, and she's pro-life. And that's fine. And I got no issue you want to be pro-life. But I told her, I said, but you got to be pro-life from the womb to the tomb.
Come on. Once they
And
born.
so I then began to run down. I said, I don't know how you can call yourself pro-life. I said, but I don't see many of y'all standing with black folk when a black man or a black woman is shot and killed. Family in Ben Crump, when that white former deputy sheriff Sean Grayson shot and killed her because she said, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. She literally invoked Jesus. I don't recall none of them standing with her. In fact, we have it. All right, so this thing went, when I say this thing has gone viral, like it probably, if you take all the different platforms, this thing has probably gotten 25, 30 million views. Is this the 7-minute version? Which one is it? Is the one from our page? No. That's a shorter version. We're going to cue this up. But this thing probably has gotten 25, 30 million views because I walked them through. So the point I'm making is when that guy talks about abortion, what I said is, no, y'all are anti-abortion. Y'all ain't pro-life. Because you cannot tell me you're pro-life if you are actively cutting food benefits for poor people.
If there was a way to surgically make abortion only affect black and brown to where they have the abortions, but their side, the whites, don't have it, they'd be fine with abortion. The issue they have with abortion
actually,
is killing their numbers.
Well, it's killing their numbers, but see, this is what I also keep telling folk. When you start talking about abortion stats, what's not including in those stats are private hospitals. That
we can't afford.
See, I love when they start throwing out numbers. I'm like, no, y'all don't want to talk about them private hospitals that don't have to report numbers. You giving me public data. And so that's what's going on there. So we got to queue up.
Roland, isn't it part of it they don't want to lose their majority status?
Yeah. And so look, my book we have right
babies
here.
Being
No,
born.
literally, my book White Fear. It's called White Fear: How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. That's actually it. The whole great replacement theory. All of this is all built around whiteness. And I keep telling folk, we just got to be honest about what's going on. The attacks on undocumented workers. The fear is America becoming a nation majority people of color. When you hear the language being used, the language they use is people are coming here and they don't know our values. Well, first of all, what are our values? Because your values ain't my values. You had this young white girl preacher who was ripping into Pastor Jamal Bryant when she's like, there's no such thing as a black church. Boo, we didn't create that. Y'all did.
Right.
I mean, she had no, and so it was just crazy. So these things are happening. And so the reason I keep saying, people are like, well, you shouldn't see color. First of all, I ain't stupid. Like, that's a white woman. That's a black woman. I'm not judging her. That's a black woman with glasses. She ain't got glasses. What? I can't actually see what I actually see?
Right.
And so that's the problem with these folks don't want to deal with. And that's what that guy didn't want to confront. In fact, I didn't say, we're going to play the video in a second, but there was a pastor in Omaha, Nebraska. A group of white preachers came to him. They said, Pastor, we want you to join us in this abortion protest. He said, I'm willing to do so. He said, but I need y'all to do something for me. He said, we have all of these crack houses in our neighborhood, so I need y'all to come with me to pray against the crack houses. The white, they said, no, Pastor, that's they literally said, that's your problem. He said, no, wait a minute. Y'all want me, he pastored the largest black church in Nebraska. You want me to roll with you against abortion, but y'all don't want to roll with me to go to these crack houses. He said, aren't those lives?
Crazy.
That was the basis. So go ahead and roll that exchange. Y'all gonna love this one.
When we talk about aborting babies, like, so you're saying to me that because we support life, actually giving babies the opportunity to live, I'm confused.
baby boy.
I'm so confused.
No. First of all, hold up. You're confused because you think I'm saying something that I'm not.
Well, tell me what you're saying.
What I'm telling you, I'm being very clear. You cannot say you are pro-life when you vote against prenatal care for the mother. You cannot say you are pro-life when you vote against Head Start. Right. You cannot say you are pro-life when you do not want to expand Medicaid to keep hospitals open. You cannot say you are pro-life when you have OBGYNs who are not available in your state. You cannot say you are pro-life when you have black women who are dying at a higher rate during childbirth and you do nothing public policy-wise to fix it. You cannot say you are pro-life if you allow infant mortality rates to be sky high in areas where there are black and brown people. What that tells me is you are anti-abortion. You are not pro-life. Right. Because if you are pro-life, you care about the child in the womb and when the child is out. And if you are pro-life, you are standing there with black folks when their kids are killed by cops. You are not silent. So if you're pro-life, be pro-life from the womb to the tomb, but not just in the womb.
When you talk about blackness,
Valerie, she ain't been back since.
I believe it.
But that's what I'm talking about. So if you want to have a pro-life conversation, we're going to expand what pro-life really is. Final thoughts. Again, when both of you, same thing I asked Delegate and also Senator. Somebody out there, somebody who's a churchgoer, maybe not, they're saying, listen, I ain't feeling none of this. I'm just not going to waste my time to even go vote. What do you tell them?
I tell them that your future depends on it. And we love the old trope where we say the lesser of the evils. But in this case, I think it's clear that evil is on one side.
People died for a right to vote. My grandmother was blessed to live for 103 years. She wasn't even eligible to vote till she was in her 50s. We have to get out and let our voices be heard. I failed to mention this earlier. We've got 39 women of color running for office in Virginia this year. Isn't that amazing? Now, as some will say, not all skin folk or kinfolk.
All right now.
But we got to pay attention to the issues, and we've got to get out and we got to vote.
All right, folks, y'all give it up, please. Valerie Boykins, Bishop Benz Fitzgerald, Kacey Carnegie. Where's Kacey? Kacey, come on up. Nadarius Clark, come on up. I'm going to talk to them, and we're going to close it out with Sheriff David Rosado, Matt Hamill, Narendra, please. We'll close it out with him. And so, first of all, glad to have both of y'all here. Kacey, first of all, describe what you're running for, your district. What's the makeup of your district, and where is it in the state?
Sure. So I'm Kacey Carnegie, and I'm running for House of Delegates in the 89th District. And so that district takes up about 70% of Chesapeake, or 70% of the district is in Chesapeake, and 30% is in Suffolk. So if you're familiar with the boroughs of Chesapeake, it's about a little bit of Great Bridge, all of Grassfield, some of Deep Creek, all of Western Branch, and then it comes into Suffolk, goes through downtown up to the North Carolina line.
Awesome. Yes, Nadarius Clark, the 84th District, representing Chesapeake, Suffolk, Franklin, and Alawite County. So if you go to Alawite County, I have parts of Windsor, Carsville, Smithfield, and Carrollton. If you hit Ivor, you went too far.
Kacey, what are your priorities?
Sure. So when I'm elected, well, first of all, this is one of our best chances to flip a district in Virginia. This district was previously held by Baxter Ennis, who was a Republican, who only won by 521 votes in 2023. And I believe our voters are going to get out and we're going to win by 5,020 votes tomorrow. But my biggest priorities are affordability, raising minimum wage, helping to reduce price of health care and child care, education, making sure that every child in Virginia gets access to a quality education regardless of where they live. And that's something we see right here in Hampton Roads. And then lastly, our public safety, making sure that everyone has access to public safety and our public safety officers have the resources they need to do their jobs.
Yes, as chair of our firearm committee in the House and also co-chair for a gun violence prevention caucus, that's been one of my biggest priorities. We've been sending 24 bills to the governor's mansion every year. Sadly, he vetoes most of those. but I was able to get one of my bills signed, and that was for safety lock-in devices to get tax credits. If you are practicing safe storage, then we want to reward you for being a good gun owner. I'm a gun owner myself. A lot of times the rhetoric is Democrats are scared of firearms, and we just want responsible gun ownership. When we tried to pass bills to ban guns out of hospitals and mental health facilities, that bill was vetoed. When we push bills to say, well, we want safety training at the purchase of your firearm, that bill was vetoed. So common sense gun solutions have been presented, but sadly elections have consequences, and we're dealing with the consequence of 2021 with Governor Glenn Youngkin.
For both of you, I want to talk about the notion of public safety. I had Brandon Scott, the mayor of Baltimore, on my show last week. Last week I was broadcasting from Afrotech in Houston. I've had Mayor Brandon Johnson from Chicago. I've had other mayors on. I've talked to and interviewed police chiefs all across the country. There's this notion in this country that, if you throw more money to hire more cops, that solves crime. When the reality is, to deal with crime, it has to be a 360-degree solution. It can't just be all about funding law enforcement. Is that how you also see public safety? It has to be much broader. How do you have violence prevention programs? How are you targeting, dealing with jobs, and all those things that actually impact crime?
I'll go first. First, like you said, we need to fund our community violence interrupters programs, and we need also hospital-based violence programs in place as well. We need to make sure those are funded and the mental health that goes around. So
first of all, explain for the person who doesn't understand hospital. You just said hospital crime prevention programs. Yes. Explain that.
Yes, a lot of times in our hospitals, I've been working with Centera, Bon Secure, Obacy, but definitely Norfolk General to make sure that we have mental health resources, wraparound resources. A lot of times when someone is shot, that's a traumatic event. And it's not even just for them, but also their loved ones. So making sure that the mental health resources are there, the traumatic care is there, but also that those calls and those phone calls, a lot of times, those folks are on lockdown in the hospital. A lot of people can't get to them in that time that they just experienced, a huge traumatic event. So making sure those resources are there, which is being gutted by this federal administration. We had the White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention that Vice President Harris was running for 4 years, and sadly, that was the first thing to leave in the first 30 days of President Trump.
Absolutely. So when we're looking at law enforcement and making our communities safer, it's a 360-degree approach from our courts and our drug diversity programs or diversion programs, from making sure that our law enforcement has the resources they need to making sure they have the resources to be out in the community, educating our community so that they know that law enforcement is there and what they need to do in the event that something's happening, to our attorneys to make sure that we know how to treat our clients, make sure they know if they offend, how not to offend again. It's a 360-degree approach that it's going to take, making sure that we get good legislation through with the funding to make it happen here in Virginia.
It also is, we have to, I remember when the whole defund the police issue came up, and there were folks who were like, oh my God, this is awful. Well, first of all, I actually interviewed the people. I talked to them. I studied it. And one of the biggest things that they were saying is that they weren't saying defund the police. They were saying, how do you take the resources? And many cities spend anywhere from 50 to 70% of the budget on police and fire. And what they were saying is, do you send a cop to a call where it's a mental health issue? I've had to do too many of those stories where mothers and fathers call police because the son is acting erratically and the son ends up dead. Because, again, officers are trained differently than mental health professionals. And so to me, that's also how I view public safety. How do we fund when a call is based? I remember Kajima Powell in St. Louis. This happened probably after Michael Brown's shooting. We showed it. It was literally 16 seconds from the moment the police pulled up and the door opened to the first shot fired. It was 16 seconds, and the call was, there's a crazy guy out there with a knife. And I think it was like a butter knife. He's dead. And so that, to me, is how I think we have to be redefining public safety in terms of how do we spend money on resource officers, mental health professionals that may accompany a police officer where they are dealing with something first before law enforcement steps in.
Absolutely. It's something where we're going to have to train our 911 people who take the calls to make sure that they can relay that to the police. Hey, this may be a situation where a mental health officer has to go. And in addition, provide more funding so that we can have multiple mental health resource officers on every force so that they're going to the calls they need to. And even if they don't think it's a mental health call, going just to be sure. Because mental health is a real problem in this country. It's a real problem in Virginia, and we've got to make sure that we're hitting it head on, providing more resources, more beds, more places that these individuals can go that's not treating them like a criminal, but treating them like a person.
I mean, unfortunately, that's the case. I can't remember his name. It was in Dallas. The mother called and she said, I can't do anything with my son. The police will show up, and he's literally sitting here playing with a screwdriver in his hand. And they say, put it down, put it down. The guy was like, put it down, shot and killed. I played the video and I'm like, he's dead. And that mother, and this is the thing, Delegate, why this is so important. So you now have black families. When that happens, they like, I can't call the cops. Because if I call the police, my son might end up getting killed. I brought up Sonia Massey earlier. Same thing. She called the police, said there was a prowler. She's the one who ends up dead. And that's the thing that, so when we're having, I think when lawmakers, city council members, mayors, whatever, are having public safety funding conversations, we cannot act like mental health is not a part of this discussion.
Yeah, and a lot of times, when people talked about defunding, I said, no, they need more funds because they need those programs. They need those trainings. They need to make sure that they know how to handle all of the situations that our community, may encounter. And a lot of times when I ask them about their mental health, they're like, oh, we just supposed to suck it up and deal with it. And I'm like, well, how's that working for you? Because clearly, we're all human beings. They're going through a lot of stresses of the day, and they need mental health support as well. And that's something that we're telling our law enforcement to make sure that they have the tools that they need to make sure that they're properly, providing the support to our communities. But also, we need to make sure that we're holding them accountable. I think a lot of times we lack accountability when those things happen and we're not building trust. We need to get back into community policing. Knowing who your officer is that's in your community and your neighbor, having them show up to your civic lead meetings, building that rapport.
Have them actually live in your city.
That part too.
That's important. That's important. Kacey, you talked about affordability. That is a huge issue. Look, you got an election happening in New York City, and that's all kind of drama. But the bottom line is you have a candidate there who has zeroed in on affordability. So for the person, again, who does not understand state politics, how can a state lawmaker impact affordability for someone in a community?
Sure. So we're the line that comes to appropriations and makes the laws where we can reduce the car tax or figure out other ways to reduce taxes and other ways to reduce the burden that people are carrying right now. Reduce or provide incentives for childcare. I mean, the first year that both of my girls were in full-time childcare, my 1099 was $21,000. That's not right.
Yo, listen, my nieces are now 21. I saw them last week in Houston. We got them when they were a year and a half. First I raised 6 of my nieces at one time. We did. But the twins came. Yo, child care was insane. I was like, hey, how much these girls cost? Yep. It was like $1,500, $1,800 a month. And I was going, there's 2 of them. But I mean, so when I hear these people talk about, we're going to change these laws when it comes to SNAP, folk need to be going to work. Well, you also got the fact if they got kids, how in the heck they going to afford to pay for child care knowing how expensive it's gotten? That is a straight up affordability issue.
Absolutely. And so making sure that we're incentivizing child care programs to reduce their cost with government incentives, and also making sure we're looking at early education and things like that so people aren't forced to look for child care for so many years. I mean, 5 years of $21,000, that's a heck of a lot of money that could have gone into someone's college fund.
First of all, a $21,000 in a year, that's a lot of folk income.
Yeah.
Total.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now that person has to make a decision. And this is where it drives me crazy when you have out-of-touch lawmakers. There's somebody out there who's making $15,000, $16,000, $18,000. And they have to make a decision. Wait a minute. Child care is this, or I get on government benefits and I can take care of my child. But if I do this job, who's taking care of my child? I can't afford it. Those are real decisions mothers actually have to make. And if I'm in that situation, I'm going to pick the government. They want to work, but I'm going to have to pick the government benefits because I need my child taken care of.
Absolutely. Nobody loves your child like you do, right? And so child care affordability, health care. I mean, we have 350,000 Virginians at risk of losing their health care. And so making sure we're finding...
How many in your district? Have you broken it down to know what the number is?
Not the exact number, but it's close to 100,000 individuals in our district that receive government support in some way. And right now, they're having to make the decision of, you know, I'm losing my SNAP benefits. Do I go stand in line at the food bank or do I go to work?
Does your opponent support the MAGA agenda?
Absolutely.
Well, them 100,000 should be really easy who they should be voting for. Just saying.
And then just to piggyback off of that, I think we have to talk about housing affordability as well. So we have skyrocket rent that's going up. We're not getting no extra square footage. We're not getting no upgrades in our places, but yet rent still goes up. So one bill that I've been pushing for 4 years is anti-rent gouging, to give the localities a tool in their toolbox to say, hey, if you're going to raise your rent, we want to just make sure that you're raising it fairly, because we're seeing 10, 20, 30, 40% increases going up, but still people are living with slumlords. So we got to address the affordable housing issue. We're in a shortage. We're 300,000 houses short of affordability houses in Virginia. So we have to address that concern, but healthcare is a huge concern. I'm happy that we have mobile maternal clinics coming out to Franklin and Isle of Wight to address some of those, the black and brown issue with mortality rate and infant mortality rate. I know Delegate Hayes has been championing that bill as well for implicit bias training in our hospitals. That bill sadly has been getting vetoed, so I'm happy when Abigail wins tomorrow, we'll be able to get some good legislation signed.
And again, when you have these anti-diversity, equity, inclusion people who don't understand, that issue of doctors not understanding and listening to black women is real. They cannot explain why black women are dying at a rate 3 times higher than white women during childbirth. And it is not also about income. Serena Williams is married to a billionaire, and she got 300-400 million herself. She almost died because her doctors were not listening to her about her pain. I mean, so that thing is real. And so when people say, well, we don't really need bias training. Oh no, actually you do, because that's how real that thing is. Is there anything state lawmakers can do to stop the corporate ownership of homes? Because that is estimated by 2030, 40% of homes in the country will be owned by Wall Street. And they don't want to sell homes. They want folks renting.
So I'll tackle it. My anti-rent gouging bill is actually carved out to make sure that those type of developers are held accountable. And a lot of times when we have bills that address rent or housing, a lot of times there are carve-outs for them, and that's how they're able to have these shell companies buy 3 or 4 homes and just keep it as a small business.
Man, I've been getting text messages, I swear, every day for the last 5 years trying to buy my house in Texas. My parents live in my house, and I'm like, no, stop texting me, stop calling me, I ain't selling.
So we have to have better consumer protections around our home ownerships to make sure, because that's what's causing the skyrocket of our lack of affordable housing, because we're having that monopoly. Like you said, Wall Street is now buying up our neighborhoods, and we have to take control of our community.
Kacey, also one of the things that have, listen, I cover city government, I cover county government, and I remember all these developers coming before the city council, county government, we're going to build mixed housing, affordable housing, and the elected officials always get excited by, they're going to be anchor stores and restaurants and shops, things along those lines. And then, and I'm sitting there covering this, and I'm going, who can afford that condo? I remember I was in Chicago, and I was driving around with a banker, and I said, I just need you to explain to me. It ain't enough people to afford all of these $600,000 to $1 million, $600,000 to $1 million condos. I said, can you tell me where these people are? And of course, when the housing crisis hit, we saw what happened there. That to me is also something that lawmakers have to deal with. I get being excited with the glitzy stuff, but they're trying to go after high income folk, and that's not where the housing shortage is. How do you deal with that?
Well, I think it's a multifaceted issue. Right now, Suffolk is one of the fastest growing cities here in Hampton Roads and in the Commonwealth.
So you already see what's coming.
Yeah, and we're having a lot of developers come in there and say, "Oh, we're building affordable housing."
Lying.
When do they start at? They're like 500,000. I said, "Who's that affordable for?"
Start at how much?
500.
That's what I'm talking about.
And then they're also not taking into consideration the communities that was already there. So a lot of times they're not properly doing environmental impact statements.
Nope.
The runoff that's coming from the new developments are going into the old developments, and now I have people that need a boat to get to their front yard. So it's just, we have to hold developers accountable, and we want growth. We don't want to stifle growth.
But you just can't give them massive tax breaks just to be able to say, "Hey, we got new development."
Exactly.
Same. We right now, Chesapeake and Suffolk are growing so fast, and the cities, they want to approve the development because it's more money in their pocket, right? But they're not building the schools to keep up with it. They're not making sure our roads are safe. They're not looking at the type of development that's coming. And so it's a matter of putting the pressure on our local cities, Chesapeake and Suffolk in our case, to make sure that before they're approving these projects, that we have the infrastructure to support it, and that these projects are something we need. We don't need another $550,000 home in the Deep Creek area of Chesapeake or in Grassfield. We need a $250,000 home that someone who has come here and is raising a family can afford,
right,
and can stay here and wants to stay here.
And I would just piggyback to say, a lot of times when we see this development, a lot of marginalized communities stay behind. When you go right up the street to Pewsville, they still have paper roads. They don't have correct flood mitigation. But you go around the corner to Harborview, and it's all did up. And none of those resources are going to those black and brown communities that has been there for decades to make their way of life better as well. So we have to make sure we hold our local officials accountable. Make
your final case to voters why they should vote for you.
Sure. So as I said earlier, I'm running in the 89th district. I was born in this district. I was raised in this district. I love this district. I came back in 2012 and started my own law practice because I knew my job was to give back to the community that raised me. And now, 13 years later, I know my job is as a delegate to give back to the community that raised me. My husband was actually born and raised in the Suffolk part of the 89th district. And so together, we just want to make sure that our district has a voice and that we're putting good legislation through to protect Virginia.
And you should vote for somebody with an ankle tattoo. What's the tattoo? What is that?
So actually, when you talk about reproductive health care, both of my daughters are the product of in vitro fertilization. And while we were going through in vitro fertilization, we lost 9 embryos. And so the birds you see are one for each embryo. And then the infinity symbol is whenever I tell my daughters, I love you, they say, I love you more. I say, I love you the most. And then they say, I love you infinity. So it's for my daughters.
Then when her daughter do something wrong, she's kicking them. Like, I love you.
Yep.
Like, get yourself right.
I also do have Ruth Bader Ginsburg's dissent collar tattooed on my arm.
Okay. All right, look at you. All right. Tatted up delegate. All right.
With a nose ring.
and the nose ring. Was there? My niece has got like 2 of those. I'm like, Lord, y'all get one more, I'm gonna cut you. Nares, go ahead.
Awesome. Well, first, I just want to thank you for being here, coming out, raising awareness in a time like this. It's so important that we get the word out and get the vote out, and definitely to black voters. So, and thank you to all that came out. But this election, we have a clear decision to make, and it's going to take each and every one of us to get out to the polls. So, I encourage you to continue to support me in the 84th District. The last 2 years, I sponsored over 300 bills. 90 of them has been signed under a Republican governor. So imagine the work that we've
been busy.
Yeah, we've been busy in the House. And I go to all parts of my district, making sure all voices are heard. Whether you voted for me or not, I have lent an ear, and I have worked for everyone in this district, from the farmers to the workers to the veterans to the federal workers. Everyone in the district, because it's an hour just to drive through my district, and it's very diverse. And that's what we need. We need people that's going to sometime, fight for the good fight, but also can put politics aside and listen to the voters and the constituents of our community. So, and I just want to continue to be that fighter for you all.
All right, folks, put your hands together. Kacey, Carnegie, Nadarius, Clark. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Good luck. Thank you. All right, thanks a bunch. Let's bring on up our final guest, Sheriff David Rosado, Chesapeake Sheriff's Office. Matt Hamill, Commonwealth Attorney, Chesapeake. Narendra, please, Commonwealth Attorney out of Suffolk. The Chief of Police for Suffolk is here. All right, let's see. Do we have? Okay, hold on. Oh, do we have? Y'all might have to share a mic. Sit down. Take your seat, sit down. Okay, we got over here. All right, so we'll come on, take a seat right here. Take a seat. Matt, David, we'll just have you stay right there on the end. Take a seat, David. Come on, take a seat. Then y'all share a mic down there. Let's talk about. We've heard the candidates talk about criminal justice reform. We talked about resources for law enforcement. A lot of folk finally figured this out, folk on the Democratic side, on the progressive side, about 10, 12 years ago, that the folks here, you are actually at the center of criminal justice reform. We could talk about, folks were going to Congress, they were going to state houses, not realizing that the decisions, not even really made by judges, it's made initially at that arrest, at that indictment, and then what happens in the courts. Just share how your view of law enforcement and criminal justice reform and keeping communities safe and how those things work together.
As you mentioned before, when you were speaking with the delegates, it's a 360 view. You're looking at everything. You're looking at the circumstances of a particular crime. You're looking at what's fair for that community. You're looking at what's fair to that victim. And you're looking for consistency. And so it is not a one-size-fits-all. You're always looking at how to have an impact. And for me, for my office in particular, when you were talking about how are you trying to make your community better, ours starts with education and prevention. And the thing that I always say is I prefer not to have to prosecute anyone, but people do what people do. And so I will have a job probably for a while. But if we can educate people and we can prevent that, that's far more impactful, in my opinion, than anything else. And so I don't look at it as reform. I'm not progressive at all. I think the solutions and approaches we take in my office are just common sense. There's nothing special about it. Dealing with mental health, we started a behavioral health docket in the city of Suffolk about 2 years ago. Having people come through that system so that they don't continue to be repeat offenders just makes sense. So for me, it's just about doing the things that make sense.
See, Matt, for the longest, it was hardliners, lock them up, throw the kid away, put folks in. And then now, if you are a common sense prosecutor, oh, that's a Soros-funded prosecutor, as opposed to, no, you got to factor in how much it actually costs to put somebody in a county jail, to put them in a state prison, how long they are there, and also examine the crime itself to the point that you just made it. Also, it's about fairness when you have these disparities in sentencing as well. Talk about your approach.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for having us here today, Roland. This is a great opportunity to talk a little bit about what we do. For those of you that don't know, Narendra is the Commonwealth's attorney for Suffolk. I'm the Commonwealth's attorney for Chesapeake. We're both elected, we're both running for re-election, and we are essentially your district attorney. That's what they call it in other jurisdictions. But we are the chief prosecutors for our jurisdiction. That's what we do. And so now more than ever, having an elected Commonwealth's attorney is so key. When you look at the things that Trump is doing in firing U.S. attorneys who will not indict his political enemies, and he fired the U.S. attorney in the Western District. He fired the U.S. attorney in the Eastern District. He had career prosecutors quitting so he could finally put somebody in there who has no criminal justice experience to indict people. We are at the local level, and this is why this election is so important, because there's no D's or R's. Once you get past the statewide races and the delegates, we're the local guys on the bottom, and that's why voting the entire ballot is important. That's why having poll greeters handing out Democratic sample ballots is so important. But to answer your question specifically, we have a very similar approach. Narendra and I work quite well together. We oftentimes do special prosecutions for each other's jurisdictions. It is a 360-degree approach. Yes, I think Suffolk and Chesapeake want good schools and safe streets. That's my North Star. That means we're going to prosecute violent crime hard. But when it comes to nonviolent offenders, people who commit crime because of drug addiction or behavioral health issues, we not only have a behavioral health docket in Chesapeake, we also have a recovery court, which used to be called drug court. And when I came to office 4 years ago, there was very little support for those programs in Chesapeake. And I'm proud to say we now have the second largest combined drug court and behavioral health docket in all of Virginia, right here in Chesapeake. Thank you. And Chesapeake is a 255,000 person city. We're the second largest city in Virginia. And if you think this election doesn't matter, it matters. It especially matters to have people with integrity who are going to indict people who deserve to be indicted and to divert people who deserve to be diverted out of the criminal justice system. I also started an elder abuse task force. It's a multidisciplinary team of various agencies where we educate the public on elder crime to help prevent scams, prevent construction scams, but we also prosecute cases through that program, the hard cases that were not prosecuted before. And I'm very proud of that work. And so, yes, it's community prosecution, it's dealing with behavioral health, it's dealing with drug addiction, but it's also doing our job with integrity in each and every case.
Sheriff, we see these stories, we see these cases, we see what happens when conversations take place, and then folks say, well, there are a few bad apples, but then we see other cases where you have shootings, police brutality, things along those lines. As a leader of a department, how do you set the tone in terms of how you want those under you to be operating and to understand they are there to protect and serve not themselves and each other, but the public?
Thank you, Roland. Thank you for that question, and thank you for allowing me to be here. In Chesapeake, the sheriff's office is a unique office because we're there for the community, first and foremost. By code, we take care of our jail security, inmate care, as well as our courts and serving all the civil papers in our city. But it's the heart of who we work with together in the office, the men and women. There's 422 sworn staff, 69 civilian staff, and we work cohesively and we work as a family. Also, what's important in the community is keeping it safe, and we do it by the collaboration and working with the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, the police chief, the fire chief, and the city. Together, we are the safest city in Hampton Roads, and we're one of the safest in the country. And that's not by accident, that's by design. That's by all the work that we do, and it starts in the community. It starts in the schools. I've expanded school resource deputy program to keep our kids safe in all the elementary schools. And it's a 3-year program that we started 3 years ago. There were no school resource deputies or officers in the elementary schools to keep our kids safe. We started that, and I've expanded that, along with our involvement in the community, with the civic leagues, with the churches, and keeping our seniors safe. The men and women that I work with, I am so proud to walk alongside them because I've done it for 24 years. And they have the biggest heart for our community. They know how to treat people because they're in our communities, they live there, and they work side by side with each other. But it's what we do in the community. We raise money for Special Olympics. We raise awareness for mental health. Right now, we are constructing a mental health therapeutic unit in our jail to help those with mental health crisis. Years ago, the jail was a place where it was a dumping ground for people with mental health issues. Now, we are finding a solution for it right now to help veterans with PTSD. That's a program that we've started to help women with trauma from childhood until now, and these are only going to expand. So we care for our folks here in Chesapeake. We do it with care and compassion. Our place, our jail, is not a place of just retention, but of redemption. And that's what we want to show everyone. We're here for you, we love you, and we want to be a part of you.
Give us your name and title.
Al Chandler, retired chief. And being retired, I'm able to speak a little easier.
Or freely.
Yes, much more freely. When you talk about accountability, and that's kind of the question you asked, I think accountability is something that we need to talk about a lot in today's time, because what we're seeing, many of us have concern with, especially on the national level. And if we're not careful, that seeps down into the local level very quickly. But we have a lot of excellent law enforcement professionals in this area. The law enforcement community that we have, I know very well. I know the agencies in this area, and I know the leaders in this area, and they do a very good job trying to foster that environment. But we cannot afford to let up. One of the biggest things that we have to have is that continued community engagement. We cannot lull ourselves into this feeling of it'll be all right. Because once we get to the point where it's somebody else's problem, then it begins to spiral out of control. The community has to continue to ask what is going on. The community has to continue to find out what is happening, why is it happening. The community has to continue to be engaged with what's going on in their local police department, and police officials and law enforcement officials have to continue to be out and in the community saying, hey, this is what we're doing. These are the programs that we have. These are the things that we're doing to make sure that we have a handle on crime. I think the wraparound services that we were talking about are extremely important because arrests are needed. We have to be extremely aggressive when it comes to fighting crime. We can't be soft when it comes to fighting crime. We have to actually make arrests, because some people will not be just kind of, hey, be nice and don't do that. There are some people that will need to be arrested, but there are other people that we can give them those resources, and those resources need to be available. So we as a community need to make sure that we are on the forefront of making sure that we know what community resources are out there, and be able to offer and push those community resources in our churches, in our social organizations, in our nonprofits. We need to be saying, hey, how can we support our local Commonwealth Attorney's Office, our sheriff's departments, our police departments?
Well, Narendra, on that point, I mean, for instance, we are dealing with attacks on cashless bail. We are dealing with how folks are demonizing, if you will, decisions made by prosecutors in the state of Florida, where you've had Governor Ron DeSantis literally, he has removed state prosecutors, individuals who were elected because they made the determination as to how they were going to prosecute. And then what's crazy is the voters voted on that. So in one case, he removes a black woman. He removes her. She gets reelected on the exact same agenda. And so this whole idea of someone else, like I love a lot of these Republicans who talk about local control. And I'm like, well, these are elected folk, and people are electing their communities. And so talk about, again, how as the person who runs an office, how you are setting the agenda as to how the office is going to run, and the voters get to hold you accountable when they go to the ballot box.
Well, I think part of that problem stems from the top, right? When you have the president of the United States demonizing prosecutors, what do other people think? Except that we are not good at our jobs. We don't know what we're doing, that we're using our jobs to further our political gains. I will say this, and I've always said it to everyone I'm accountable to, and to those who come through our city. I value people with integrity. Our office does not operate with attorneys and support staff who don't do the mission of the job, which is to treat people fairly, to do their research, to do their homework, and prosecute those cases that need to be prosecuted, again, diverting cases that need to be diverted, and considering, again, a 360 view about how a case should be pursued. I am accountable to the people in Suffolk. They vote for me. They will reelect me tomorrow. And what we... And what we do in Suffolk is, one, we're listening to our people, right? So I started an environmental justice initiative. We are actually going after people who are environmental offenders in our city. That came as a direct result of my citizens saying,
"Oh Lord, the Trump folk, we coming after you." That's that DEI stuff.
They already are. They already are. It's fine.
As if that's not real. But go ahead. I'm sorry. Yes.
I mean, but I think it was the bishop who said before, people have to have a backbone. People have to stand up and do what's right, because and I hate to bring it to Hitler and Nazis, but they didn't just rise to power overnight. People let it happen. And you have to take a stand. You have to take a stand. You have to say what's right. You have to do what's right all the time. All the time. Not when it's convenient, not when you don't have something to lose.
Right.
We all have something to lose, right? So we're going to do our jobs all day, every day, irrespective of who comes through our courtroom, irrespective of what political party or affiliation or religion, because that's what we were called to do. That's our job, to treat people fairly and equitably through this system. So our victims, our defendants, our attorneys, even the ones we don't like, all get treated fairly, because that's what we are supposed to do. So the only way to overcome that with people who may want to impede on that power is to keep doing what we do. Because just like the prosecutor in Florida, she got reelected because she did her job.
Right.
And so hopefully what I am doing, what I have done the past 4 years, speaks for what I am and who I am and the people I employ. And we will continue to do those good things and bring those good things to the city of Suffolk.
You know, Matt, when we talk about, again, those decisions that a person has to make, for the longest, you had judges that had discretion, even in sentencing. Then all of a sudden, we saw with bias how in the heck this person had the book thrown at him, but this person got off. Well, then lawmakers swung the pendulum, mandatory minimums, then not realizing, well, not all cases, not all crimes are the same. There are so many things you have to factor into that. And so for folk who don't understand how you think and how you see this, how do you communicate to your attorneys as it relates to how you want things to be done? Because there have been some DAs who say, hey, I need high conviction rates because that's what's going to guarantee your next job, as opposed to what's fair and just and right for the community in which we serve.
Well, that's an excellent question.
I know. I'm just messing with you. I'm just messing. Y'all got to have some levity, of course.
That's why I'm here, because you're good, man. You're good. Well, first of all, we do have high conviction rates in my office, 95%. I just want to put that out there. But your point is it's very prescient. If we get cases that come in the door that are overcharged, or we have cases that should not be prosecuted, we have the discretion to null pros any case that comes through the door. And we really are the last line of defense right now. And I'm not trying to overplay this and talk about this, but this is so dramatic, what is happening at the national level with the firing of career prosecutors, career law enforcement. It is going to take decades to get us back to where we should be.
Well, it's not even just firing. You had a case in Los Angeles County. A woman was brutalized by a deputy sheriff while she was recording an arrest. The U.S. Attorney's Office prosecuted this former deputy sheriff, got convicted. The Trump-appointed U.S. Attorney comes in to offer a post-conviction plea deal to let the guy off when it had gone through a jury. He had been convicted. This is after the fact, and they said, nah, we want to completely change it. So we're seeing something that is so outrageous with how they're prosecuting. In fact, there were two cops in D.C. who were convicted. They're chasing a person. I think it led to serious injuries. They were convicted. Trump, the first week, he pardons those two officers.
It's shameful.
So we're seeing something that is way out of what we normally have.
But it's worse than that. So 17 years ago, I volunteered for a deployment to Iraq to serve inside a prison in Baghdad, where our soldiers and airmen and Marines were rounding up people. They were looking for people in towns around Baghdad, and they'd bring in, sometimes they'd be looking for a guy with a common name, and they'd round up 30 or 40 people that shouldn't be there. And it was my job to set up parole-style review boards of these detainees. And what we were doing is bringing constitutional principles of due process and the rule of law to the Iraqi people to say, look, if we don't have the evidence to hold you and you're not a security risk, we're going to send you out. And it was so fascinating to me to see what, if we would release somebody, the next 10 guys that would come in would say the exact same thing that that guy said. And I'm like, it doesn't work like that. But they did not believe in the system. They did not believe in the rule of law. They did not believe that what we were doing was fair and just and right. And what is happening right now at the national level, I fear it is eroding people's trust in what we do every single day. And that is the real tragedy, the real shame, and the real danger in what we're dealing with right now.
Cheryl, to that particular point that Matt just made there, when we're talking about law enforcement, it is a trust thing. Listen, the two lawmakers who were gunned down in Minnesota, what happened? Person came, knocked on their door, looked through the peephole. They saw law enforcement. They opened the door. He was impersonating law enforcement. That happened. There was a case in Florida. This guy was actual law enforcement. Was driving an unmarked vehicle. He stops this guy on a highway. And incident happened. Guy ends up being killed. And the guy was like, I didn't know who the heck. Like, he was on the recorded saying he know who this person was because no lights, no nothing. And so that is so important. What do you tell your deputy sheriffs and your personnel when it comes to the issue of trust? Because if the community loses trust, they're not talking to you. They don't want to call you. They don't want to see you. And then when you show up, folks don't even want, there's tension that's there. What do you say to them that, hey, do understand that the folk who you roll up with, that's also who pays your salary?
Exactly, because that's who I work for. That's who we work for. Trust is earned, not given. And everyone that I work with, my job is to make sure that they go home every single day to their families. And that's by providing the best training, equipment, and opportunities that I can give them. And when they're out in the community, it's about building trust. We just don't work the jails, the courts, or serve papers. We're in the schools, and we're out in the community. We're in the churches, we're in the communities, as well as the underrepresented communities that we're there for. We work with our seniors, we work with our children, and education is key. Because I even talk to the seniors about if somebody comes up to you, knocks on your door, and they have a uniform, you don't have to open the door. Find out to see who they are. Call 911, see if there's an officer or deputy in front of my door, and they'll let you know. Because it's about trust. We have built a trust here in Chesapeake. That's why we are so involved with our community, more so than anyone that I can think of or any agency in this area. Because we're there. We do free football camps for our children every year. So we have the parents coming in year after year and saying, thank you so much for providing this opportunity to getting the kids off the streets, off the couches, and doing something productive with us. We have volunteer deputies that are out there working with the kids that were former NFL players, former college players, or high school players, and that builds the trust that we have in our senior community, where we provide safety initiatives, scam prevention, and a senior self-defense. We literally teach them how to defend themselves. It's a lot of fun for them, but for us, we walk away with a couple of bruises, okay? Because these seniors, we teach them how to empower themselves. And that's what makes a difference, the trust that we've built, not just given or not, we've earned this trust in our community within the churches, the schools, and everywhere we go. You will see me 24 years. I've been there. We've worked with our special needs, Special Olympic citizens out there. Everywhere that we go, we build trust, and that's the number one thing that I think that we can be proud of.
We're over time. Of course, we got to head to Virginia Beach because we're live there at 6 o'clock. Make your closing argument why they should vote for you.
So Matt mentioned due process, and I had that mentioned to me at the polls. I had someone come up and say, I just want someone who will stand up for due process. I told them we do that anyway. It's what we do all the time. We're not changing and we're not pivoting because someone told us to. Someone in Washington said what to do. We're doing what we do because it's the right thing to do every day, all the time, and we will continue to do that. And that's why you should vote for me.
Matt.
Well, thank you very much to you, Roland, and to all of you for coming out here. It is really my honor to be able to talk to you for a couple of minutes. It comes down to the mission of our office and doing it with integrity. The mission of our office is to seek justice in every case on behalf of the victim, the citizen, and the city of Chesapeake. It's that simple. We do it with our foundational pillars of teamwork, mentorship, training, and integrity. I have nearly 30 prosecutors on my staff. 20 of them are very strong women prosecutors. I am extremely proud of the office makeup that I have, what we've accomplished over the last 4 years with Elder Abuse Task Force, heightened awareness, and in second largest behavioral health docket and drug court in the state. I'd like to keep serving the citizens of Chesapeake because never in the history of this country is it more important to have people with integrity in our elected Commonwealth Attorney's office, and I hope to have earned your trust and your confidence in your vote for 4 more years.
David?
I'm Sheriff Dave Rosado. I'm the People's Sheriff. I've been in office for 24 years and as your sheriff for the last year. I have expanded senior programs, youth programs, more deputies in our elementary schools, and my job is to make sure to keep you safe. You have to write in and shade in the box for my race because I'm the write-in candidate. I need to express that. You have to write in, shade in Dave Rosado so I can continue all the great work that I've done. I will continue to do. This is not a job for on-the-job training. This is a job that I will continue to give you excellence that I have been for the past year and looking for 4 more years to excelling this city to making it even safer, working with Matt Hamill and Commonwealth Attorney and our public safety team.
Chief, you ain't running, but folks who vote for city councils and mayors, they're the ones who hire police chiefs. So just talk about the importance of folk going to the ballot box.
Really important that we all get out to vote. If ever a time we needed to vote, it is now. It is literally life and death that we get out and go to that ballot box and vote correctly.
All right, folks, that is it for us here at 6 p.m. We're going to be, first of all, let me thank everybody for coming out. Give yourselves a round of applause, please. Give it up for all of the candidates and all of our panelists as well. We're going to be in Virginia Beach at 6 p.m. Eastern, New Light Baptist Church. So we look forward to broadcasting. That's our normal show. We're normally live 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern every single night. So we'll see y'all in 4 hours. Let me thank everybody for being here. Again, folks, elections matter. When we talk about what is happening in our cities, our towns, our state, in this country, you cannot talk about you want policy changes unless you deal with the politicians when it comes to policy. And Matt made the point, and I think it's critically important, and we emphasize this all the time. Top of the ticket is important. But the fact of the matter is, and polling data shows it, more people are impacted by local races than they are state and even national. So you know how we do on this show. I remember when I was in Harris County. I'm from Houston. When I travel around, there were 18 sisters who were running for judge, and I was traveling around with them. Folk, please, do not just focus on governor, attorney general, lieutenant governor, and those positions. You have to vote down ballot, top to bottom. And again, if you're talking about criminal justice reform, if we're talking about social justice, we have to understand that, guess what? State attorneys, district attorneys, they are at the forefront. Sheriffs at the forefront. Judges at the forefront of dealing with that. And so I want us to remember that. Again, maximize your vote. You have the opportunity. Election day is Tuesday. Let's make this thing happen. And again, let's not just complain about stuff. Let's not just tweet about it and post on TikTok and Instagram. Every single person has the right to vote. And remember this here. You might be a billionaire, but they only got one vote. And you might be on SNAP benefits, but your vote counts as much as the billionaire's vote. And so you got to make it happen. Let me thank Bishop. Let me thank everybody for being here. Thanks a lot. I'll see y'all live at 6 p.m. Eastern right here. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Sun Network. Holla!